The following program, offered by Fox 19, includes lawyers licensed in Kentucky. For those lawyers to maintain compliance with the Kentucky Bar Association requirements, the phrase, "This is an advertisement," must appear on the screen. Moore Law is underwritten in the public interest by the Moore Law Firm, a legal professional association. This is Moore Law on Fox 19.
Welcome to More Law. Today our topic is careers in the law. Have you ever considered a career in the legal system? Law school is one option, but it's important to note you don't have to be a lawyer to have a career in the law. A lot of people, from police officers to paralegals, play key roles as well. If you have a question about any career in the law, give us a call at 513-421-4691. We will go to the phones in a minute, but first let us take a look at what is coming up over the next couple of weeks. On September 3rd, we'll talk about DUI, September 10th, business and estate planning, and September 17th, the truth about trial lawyers. They do get a bad rap sometimes. Joining me this Monday and every Monday, Don Moore. How are you?
Hey, Deb. How you doing? I'm
Very
doing
good.
great.
Very good.
Good weekend?
Busy weekend. Busy.
A little brouhaha, I understand?
The brouhaha, a lot of comedians come into town for that. And so we had some friends come into town from New York City and went down to see them perform. So it's a good thing it's Monday, though. I really needed to get back to the work week.
So I guess I'm going to have to keep the jokes to a minimum today, since you've heard them all weekend.
Well, we can see how you
all
how
those
you
comedians
size up
out
next
of
to the
work and all
comedians.
that. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
Okay. Well, one thing is no joke. We have a great show today. We're privileged to have John Norwine. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for being here. John has been the executive director of the Cincinnati Bar Association for over 15 years. He graduated from Chase locally here. He's been an attorney for over 30. He single-handedly knows more about the legal community than anyone else in the area.
Right. All the scandals, all the news, Don.
Well, you even mentioned, speaking of scandals, you said that you have people. How many people do you have on staff just to investigate if folks are having problems with lawyers?
We have about 5 people on staff who spend all or part of their time taking a look at lawyers, seeing if they're ethically correct, seeing if they're treating the public correctly.
You get how many times? You said you get 15,000 calls a year from people?
We get 15,000 calls a year from the public asking us, I need a lawyer. I'm going to have a real estate closing. I live in Kenwood. Can you send me somebody or refer me to somebody who is out here in this area who does that? And that's what we do. Do you find that people pick up the phone book and just find somebody in there? I wouldn't think that's the way to go. That has been the most common way in the past, but today it looks like they go online and they try to find information, and some of it's accurate, some of it's not accurate at all.
Well, one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, John, we've got a variety of subjects we can cover that have to do with the Cincinnati Bar Association. But you know, there are an awful lot of careers that are connected with the law, not just lawyers, and we'll talk about that some, but also paralegals, legal assistants, of course, legal secretaries, court reporters. That's a very interesting occupation, and it's not just in the courtroom, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. Also bailiffs, and there's a whole bevy of people that work in and around courthouses, and those are all people that you, at least at some point in time, have contact with, isn't that right?
Sure. No, we see all of these people because they have a connection to the court system, they have a connection to the government here in the county, and they're involved every day in the law in some respect. There are a lot of good positions available in careers in law that aren't exactly, you don't have to go to law school to obtain.
Of course, in your case, you practiced law for a good long while as a private practitioner, didn't you?
I practiced law for 18 years and then got my current position in 1995. I'm the third person in this position since 1950, so it doesn't turn over very often, which I'm grateful for.
I would think you need some kind of balance and just ongoing. I mean, you can't just come in and out of that position. You have to get to know tons of people in town.
You do. You get to know someone. I'd like to believe that I know more attorneys in town than anybody else, because that's what I do and that's what I spend my time doing. I mean, our purpose is to serve the legal profession, but also to serve the public, and I think we do both. What
should somebody do if they have a lawyer and they're just not sure it's going the right direction, or they can't get calls back from the attorney? How do they approach that?
If they are having a problem with their attorney, they can call the Cincinnati Bar Association. They can also call the Supreme Court of Ohio. There's 2 different agencies that will investigate here. But they can call, we'll ask them to file a written complaint. We find that a lot of people are upset one day, but by the next day they're okay and they don't want to file that complaint. And if it looks like something we have jurisdiction over, if it is an ethical violation, we'll investigate it.
It would be hard for a layperson, I think, to know when to complain, or because you don't know a lot about the law. I certainly wouldn't know when things were going my way or they weren't with a lawyer.
Now, and a lot of people have unrealistic expectations as to what their case, how this matter should come out. They're upset because they didn't win, or they don't think they won, or a judge made a ruling that they didn't like. And sometimes you have a great attorney who does a terrific job for you, but your case and the facts just don't support it.
And go ahead, Don.
I was just going to say, one of the things that people may wonder is just how long it takes to be a lawyer, what kind of education it takes, and how old basically you have to be before you can get all that under your belt. Can you explain that for us?
Sure. Pretty much universally, you have to go to college for 4 years, you have to get that degree, then you go to law school for 3 years after that. And law school doesn't necessarily prepare you to practice law. It prepares you, you understand the law, you understand generally how to apply it, but you don't understand the day-to-day goings-on in a law office. So it's great when you can come out of law school, have a mentor, join a firm, have somebody who can kind of help you along, because a lot of the practical aspects of it you just are not familiar with at that time.
John, do you happen to know what it costs per credit hour now for law school, either Chase or UC?
You're going to spend $20,000 to at least $40,000 a year in law school, and perhaps more if you're going to an elite school. It is not inexpensive, and in fact, most law students, I think the average debt coming out of law school is about $100,000, and it's going to take you a while to pay off that debt, even if you're making a good income.
I went back when I went, it was 81 bucks an hour, and I thought, wow, that's just so much money, and I thought it was a big rip, and now I hear that what people are paying is just, it's gone out of sight.
Well, I paid $45 an hour, Don, so I got there before you.
Okay, we're going to take a break right now. We're talking about careers in the law. Give us a call, 513-421-4691. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to More Law on Fox 19, your legal questions live, with local broadcaster and award-winning reporter Deb Haas and Cincinnati personal injury attorney Don Moore, recognized by Ohio super lawyers. More answers, more help, more law on Fox 19.
Welcome back. It's time now for More Law Connection, where attorney Dan Moore is answering viewer emails. Good morning, Dan.
Morning, Deb. Thanks. Good to be here this morning. Our first question is from Yancey. Yancey asks, I fell at work and was sent to a doctor who said I was fine. Can I get a second opinion from my own doctor without paying for it? This is a workers' compensation question because it involves somebody getting injured at work or potentially injured at work. You should know that workers' compensation is a system that has its own rules and regulations that pretty much pertain to everything, this included. So can you get a second opinion and have workers' comp pay for it? In most circumstances, no. You can get a second opinion anytime you want, from any doctor you want, but you're probably going to have to pay for that. Workers' compensation will pay for a second opinion in few limited circumstances, but in most cases, it won't pay. I'll be back with more in a few minutes. Deb?
All right, thanks a lot, Dan. Our guest again today, John Norwine with the Cincinnati Bar Association. How are you?
I'm doing great.
It's going well. All right, thanks for being here. Let's see, we want to get to the phones now. We have Scott in Cincinnati. Go ahead, Scott.
Hi, I'm thinking about going to law school. I was wondering, is there particular schools for particular types of laws I need to practice? Like if I want to do personal injury, is there a particular school for that?
So is one school better than another as far as what kind of law they would like to practice?
Actually, that's a very good question. John, you want to take a stab at it first?
The answer is I think you can go to any school that has is an accredited school and has a general curriculum. Even if you think now you want to practice personal injury law, you need to get that background in all areas so that you can be a better attorney when you do graduate. Go to the highest ranked school that you can get into and that you can afford. And we have two good local schools, University of Cincinnati and Chase. And as you go a little bit farther away from here, there are some very good schools. There's 200 accredited schools in the country. Pick the best one for you.
Well, you know, one of the other things that I think is important, as part of Chase in Northern Kentucky Division, they have a night program, as they do at UD, University of Dayton. And for me, that was a solution. I had a wife and kids, and it was important for me to have a job. So I was able to go at night, generally going at night is going to take you 4 years. If you go during the day full-time, it's going to take 3 years.
And we never know what happens down the road, but would you say this is a good time to be getting into the legal profession?
It's been a very, very difficult time in the last 3 or 4 years. The graduates coming out are not finding jobs the way they did 4 and 5 years ago. The law firms have been hiring fewer graduates. It's been a very tough time. Now we see it turning around a little bit, and I'm hoping that this year's first-year class in law schools, when they graduate in 3 or 4 years, that the jobs are more plentiful. But right now, it's a very tight market.
As a result of that, you see an awful lot of people just hanging a shingle out, whereas in the past they'd look for a job working for a larger firm or something, and now some of them don't have an alternative but to either moonlight and do something else to support themselves and then hang a shingle out and start picking up clients that way.
And that's a very, very difficult way to start into practice if you are, some people are practicing essentially out of their car, out of the law library at the courthouse. They have a smartphone and a laptop, and they're trying it that way, but that's a very difficult way to get started.
Well, and you mentioned how important it is for young lawyers to have a mentor when they get out of school because, as you said, you have the knowledge but not necessarily any practical experience.
And I think the Supreme Court of Ohio recognized that several years ago. They set up a formal mentoring program. Essentially, you're going to get mentored when you get out of law school, and in some respects, you don't have a choice. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing for the public and for the profession.
Okay. All right, let's check back in with Dan Moore with another email. Go ahead, Dan.
Great. Our second question involves a unique situation that we don't hear about very often. The question is from Mitch, and he says, I let a friend use my car and he brought it back with a dent, but said he didn't hit anything, excuse me. Am I stuck with the repair bill? The unique legal theory that we're talking about here is called bailment. You don't hear that term very often. And bailment is when you give your property to somebody else for a purpose. Sometimes it's for a mutual benefit. Sometimes it's for that other person's exclusive benefit. When it's for the other person's exclusive benefit, they have a duty to return that property in the same condition that they received it. If they don't, generally they're going to be liable for any harm that results. Now, the trick is, how do you get your friend to pay for it? Most of the time, his insurance would kick in and pay for that. If he doesn't have insurance, your friend could pay for it himself. And if he still refuses, you should know that your insurance in many situations will pay for the damage in a case like this. So if you have a question, go to Fox19.com, go to the More Law link, fill out the Send Us Your Questions form and click Submit. We'll do our best to answer your question. That is all I have for today. Deb?
Thanks a lot, Dan. And Don, you had something you wanted to add here.
Well, yeah, sounds like the moral of the story is don't lend your car. You know, one of the things I was going to add, though, it is a difficult time for young lawyers coming out right now. And frankly, a little personal story. My grandfather started practicing in 1931, which is right near the beginning of the Depression. He had a wife and kids, and he started with a desk in another lawyer's waiting room, and that was his entree into practicing law. And he developed a practice over a period of time and spent a lifetime practicing law and loved it very much. So just because we're in an economic downturn time or a time that's difficult for lawyers doesn't mean they can't make it happen.
I agree. If you have the drive to get through law school, you have the drive to succeed in the practice of law. And it may be a little more difficult for you than it was a few years ago, but you can do it. You can get through.
How hard is law school? I mean, realistically, if somebody's heading that way, I mean, what should they expect?
They should expect that it is much, much more difficult than undergraduate. The competition is very difficult. It is a higher level. You're studying 3 and 4 hours to prepare for every hour you're in class. And if you want to do well in law school, you are going to have to work at it. Most law schools recognize that and tell you they don't want you doing anything else that first year except going to school. They don't want you working, and frankly, they probably don't want you having a very good time outside of law school.
I'm not going. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be back. Give us a call. Careers in the Law, 513-421-4691.